At FitFiliate, we're excited to announce the Affiliate Engineering Seminar. Coming soon to an affiliate near you, don't miss this exciting opportunity to create the affiliate of your dreams. Link in show notes or in bio to register. And welcome back to the next episode of the FitFiliate podcast. And super excited today to have clearly Tony back once again, because who doesn't love a bit of Tony on the podcast every
She's
week?
lying to the entire audience publicly at the moment.
But I'm very excited to have a repeat guest back, the one and only Jenn Green, owner of CrossFit Greer, senior manager of the US affiliate ops, herder of all the cats for the affiliate field reps, and just person extraordinaire. So welcome back for your second go in the hot seat.
Yay. Thank you. I don't know what I did to earn the second one, but appreciate it. I'm excited.
We just enjoy Jenn Green quality time. That's really what it comes down to. But I just want everybody to go on the record, or put Lisa on the record, that she just called all the field leaders cats. So you guys can all just
But they're cool cats.
That.
Kids,
cats. Way to save yourself.
Yeah.
Way to save yourself there. Well, the reason you earned the honor of becoming a repeat guest on here is because you're cool. So you got that going for you. Much cooler than Lisa and I are, especially Lisa. No, but truly the main reason you're back on here, and the reason I'm excited you're back on here, is because you were willing to come on here as Jenn Green, the affiliate owner this time, as opposed to Jenn Green, the queen of the field leaders. Although obviously those two things are completely intertwined, and that's the reason you are so good at that job, is because you are an affiliate owner. But I think because of that, and because of your familiarity with so many of the, I guess I call them underlying or regular conversations that exist inside the affiliate landscape, in terms of your perspective as a role as the field leader, I think that, coupled with the juxtaposition of your everyday experience as an affiliate owner, is unique and novel. And I think a lot of affiliate owners tend to sit on this lonely island in many cases, where they think that it's only them, like this could only possibly be happening to me. And we could really dig into how the human psychology affords us that distinct opportunity, but we don't need to. And I think what's important is that they probably maybe would think that you don't experience some of these exact same problems, these questions of like purpose and belief and long-term conversations and, impact, and insert whatever, adjective or superlative in there, like you experience them too. And I think you having this conversation allows them to realize they're normal, especially in a world now, or at least an era now, where everybody is preying on that fear of them and trying to get them to realize or think that like, there must be something wrong with me. I need to find the answer. I need to find the cure. And I think you uniquely represent an opportunity to realize that there is no cure. The only problem is wanting a cure. And the beauty of the whole thing is the process. And so I'm glad that's why you're back on here, and I'm glad you're on here for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited just to share my story, and then to also, kind of hopefully someone will take something from this and I'll make an impact in just one affiliate owner's life.
Yeah. They're definitely going to take some from your story, but I guess maybe let's start there, right? We talked a little bit about, I think, last time you were on here, but let's just move completely away from you as the field leader, the queen of the field leaders, all the titles and the hats that you wear. And let's look at you, the individual. Like, take us into your backstory, your pre-CrossFit story. And I know we talked a little bit about it, but you had some very unique things go on through that process, and some very vulnerable and challenging things that I think happened to you in that journey that, if you're willing, I would love for you to touch on. But maybe let's start at the beginning and talk about like how you even got here in the first place.
Yeah. So during, like, in high school, I was very athletic, but in different aspects. So I did track and field for a couple of years, right?
What do you mean different aspects?
Oh, hold on. Listen. So I was track and field for a couple of years, long jump, triple jump, and the 400 meter. And then sometimes the 2 miler. I don't know why I did that, but, and then the next year I was a cheerleader and played basketball. It's so that's why it's a different aspect. I was like,
so all
trying to,
athletic aspects. So I guess we're clear on that one. So they were all athletic. They just were very different types of athletics.
different ones. Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And so then when I graduated, fell in love, got married, got happy, got, content, didn't do anything physical, just kind of took advantage that I was 19 years old and, from that. So then I started running, thought I needed to get in shape, lose a little bit of weight. I ran. That was so boring, but I ran for a while. And then finally one day I decided to join like a regular gym, like a local Anytime Fitness. Someone was like, hey, you should do a mud run. And I was like, okay, sure. I don't know what that is, like whatever. But after doing that mud run and not succeeding very well, someone was like, hey, we had this new class starting, CrossFit. I'm like, I don't know what that is. This is like 2007. I don't know what that is, but sure, sign me up. I'll do it. First day was box jumps, running, and burpees in the parking lot. So I was hooked. Like from then on, I was hooked. From there, started getting better at CrossFit and just kind of like really digging into it, like what it was from there, all while still like working a corporate job. And so like just showing up to get my workout in every day was good. It was fine. Got rid of my stress. It was that stress reliever. It's what everything that we talk to our members about, like just show up consistently, was seeing gains and everything. And then I was like, oh, this would be super cool to own a gym. Like, I don't know what this is about. Right. Like,
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, because heck yeah, let's be let's get our level 1. Let's be coach. Me and my husband were like, oh my gosh, if you guys ever sell the gym, we want it. Like, I have no idea what running a business looks like, managing people looks like, other than in the corporate space. I got this. I'm super successful in my day-to-day. I'll be successful in running a gym from that. And so finally get the opportunity. The gym is handed to myself and my husband. And so we take over as owners. I then don't realize that like I have a heart to serve people and to love on my community. And so it consumed me. Working a full-time job in corporate mortgage banking from sunup to sundown, tons of overtime. My time in the gym would consist of me showing up to coach, then coming home and just trying to get dinner for my husband and myself, and then doing all the back end stuff of the gym, books, emails, leads. Like, so a lot of balls were dropped. Like I had no idea like what I was doing from that. Through that, I gained a lot of weight. I was not making working out a priority. It was just like, show up, coach again. It's 7:30. I got to get home, eat, watch TV, go to bed, start back up, coach 6 a.m., work, back that full circle. Looking back, like when I finally realized that was in the cycle that I was in, like it's cool that was like the impact and stuff that I make, but I wasn't setting that example of what I want my members to do. Right. Like I wasn't working out. I wasn't healthy. Another thing that developed through that was that like I was stressed to the max. Like all these balls were dropping. I was just trying to be a top performer in my day to day, provide an amazing like home and community for my members, see results in them. Their wins is how I was celebrating my wins. I really didn't have personal wins, but through that, I started drinking more and more alcohol, and probably, I don't know. I mean, I could easily do a bottle of wine a day, no problem. And that was from like the time that I got home at 7:30 or 8 to like bed. And like to say that, like to think back, it's really hard to even say if I was addicted or had a problem. I know I had a problem because I then began to like, I don't have a problem. and I would
Mm-hmm.
hide a glass of wine in the cabinet and like walk by and like grab a sip, and my husband wouldn't know about it. But like if I didn't have wine on the way home, I passed a Walgreens, and I still passed that Walgreens, right? But past that Walgreens, and I'm like, run in and let me buy like a bottle of wine, and like it wasn't that the people or anything stressed me out. It was just like I just need something to turn my brain off so that I can fall right to sleep and like not think about stuff.
For sure.
And so it was like just this continued cycle. I had gained way too much weight for like my body frame, was unhappy, was unhappy with how I looked, super happy in like my marriage and my gym. And like that was like my happiness, I guess you could say, right? From there. So, yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you, I guess, for sharing that. I know you don't obviously have to share that, but I know the reason that you shared it was a selfless reason in and of itself, which I'll come back to in terms of who you are as a person and how that both this helps. And obviously, if you're not aware of it, can hurt you, as you just shared with us. But obviously, I know that your intention of sharing that was to help anybody else who's experiencing the same thing. And so for that reason, thank you for sharing it, because you didn't have to do that. But there's a lot of things in there that anybody's listening to this. There's a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning. The first one is that to anybody listening to it, I would suspect your first knee-jerk reaction would be to look at the complexity of the situation and to effectively point fingers at the symptoms and the things that were happening in Jenn's life or in your story and be like, oh yeah, she could have fixed that or done this or done that. And completely breezing past what is the operative part of that whole statement, which was you as the person in the middle of that chaos, right? And the reason why we would all do that while listening to this is that we all have this also borderline arrogance that we think that we're different than other people. So we would think that our situation would be somehow different. But at the same time, also wanting to get off this lonely island and feel like we're part of something bigger. And so if you're listening to this and you think that Jenn's story is different than your story because maybe she turned to wine and maybe you turned to video games, right? Or maybe you turn to, insert whatever other sort of distraction, which is really all it is. There is a lot of similarities in it because, and this is not an affiliate owner problem. I think that anybody that's listening to it, and you especially too, Jenn, like this is a problem of all business owners where I think this goes awry for so many of us, and it gets perpetuated when you're in business is, and we've talked about this a lot on here, but we grow up thinking that the answer to success is outside of us, but we don't realize that it starts from within us. And so we all inevitably get to this point where you got to, and luckily you got to it quickly. I think that's the beauty of business too, is that what maybe working in a corporate world will take you like to your 40s or 50s to hit that wall. When you get into business, it's everything everywhere all at once. And you're just like, you hit that wall in like the first 2 years and you're like, what have I done? But we all get to that point where like, who am I? What do I want of this? And I guess, that's the thing I really want to talk about is going back to the beginning of it. You're kind of in the hot seat here because it's a little bit more like a coaching call, I think, than it's like a podcast episode. But
yeah,
when you decided to open the affiliate, I know that you loved CrossFit. It changed your life. You enjoyed it. And you and your husband really just were like, we should do this thing. Was there an idea of what it was going to be like when you did it? Or was the idea that you just wanted to be, call it an identifiable CrossFit affiliate? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be like another affiliate owner, or were you like, we're going to do this and this is what it's going to look like in our future?
Yeah. So we were pretty involved as like managing it and coaching and running a lot of the stuff. And so it was more so like we should just own it so that we could take credit like for continuing to make this change. It's our heart that's going out there. I don't think we ever thought about the future of that. It was just like, oh my God, we're going to be affiliate owners. Like, we're so excited. Like, we can actually like own this and truly be the people that help make this impact from there. So, yeah.
Your answer to that question would have taken my next question in one of two places, which would have either been, when did you lose that idea of the future? Or in this case, the other question would be, what prevented you, or what do you think you ever had an idea of what you wanted out of life personally?
It actually wasn't until I had a really good friend kind of start asking me those questions of like, am I happy? Am I working out? All of that. That really actually like challenged me. And it was the start of COVID. And so then like through that, when I was like, okay, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm going to work out. I'm going to make myself a priority, that I really started to see a vision of where my affiliate could go and where I could go from there. Did I answer your question?
It does answer my question. Also a great friend.
Yes.
Good looking dude.
Very great friend.
I like him sometimes, but inside jokes there, kids. Yeah, I'll share who that was maybe later. Well, and I think it's great that you have somebody in your life to do that, because like one of the things that I think we all lose somewhere along the way is our ability to ask big questions. It's kind of a topic of an internal conversation with the team too. From a young age, like kids are real good at it, right? We can ask those big questions, and we can explore big answers. We can explore big opportunities, big possibilities, big imaginations. But systematically, from the time we're very, very young, that thing is stripped from us, right? It's taken away from us to be like, stop asking questions, just start finding answers. And, and what ends up coming out of that is a conversation that's not new to this episode, this channel, is that we tend to pursue this validation through, outward accomplishments or successes, aka mimetic pursuits, right? Like, and I think you didn't obviously decide to open an affiliate because you were like, I'm going to become super rich because every other affiliate owner is super rich. You said, I want to own an affiliate because I love CrossFit and I want to do it, but I don't really know anything about business. So you did the first logical, emotional thing that you would do, which has served you your entire life, which is step back, and instead of asking big questions, you looked around, right? Like, I think that's probably fair to say. And you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? What is this supposed to be like? And what box can I check? Because like in your backstory, what I think is interesting, pre-owning the affiliate, is you did the right things, right? Like you played the games in school, you played the sports, you had the social checkbox, you were approved and accepted to whatever degree amongst your peers. You married, the way you were supposed to, got the house, got the job, did the thing. Luckily for you, like many people, CrossFit jumped in there before the existential crisis would, right? Which is because like at some point the soul always calls, and that soul will always call and say, I shouldn't say that, the psyche should call, because maybe then you guys won't think that I'm so woo-woo and esoteric, but like the psyche will always call and be like, we're not in alignment, right? And usually what ends up happening is for people who take that conventional path, they have the baby, multiple babies, they buy the house, the picket fence, they have the job, they get the promotion, they marry the high school sweetheart, they do everything that society says they're supposed to do, and they're like, where's me, right? Yeah. Who am I? And for a lot of people, what they don't realize one of the unsung heroes of CrossFit for so many people is its ability to meet so many of you guys right there where that chaos is about to start, and gives everybody this new thing to put themselves into and explore themselves as who they are through all the things that we know to be true in CrossFit, those arduous physical tasks and those endeavors and those environments, those communities and those places. And for so many people, you see this all the time. They find themselves where the old jokes of CrossFit come from, because it's like creates adulterous marriages, right? But what's actually happening there is that people are finding themselves. And in that process, they're like, I've also found that I don't actually love that person. And that might seem like a scary thing, but you found it that way. And what is novel to the affiliate owner, I think, in that story, and I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but we kind of have to in this episode, but is that they attempt to replicate the things that got them almost into the problem in the first place in this new thing, and then are shocked when it's about to replicate the same thing. And like it would happen with you, right? So you checked all the boxes, you did all the things, you looked around, in life standards, what I need to do to fit in with my friends, what's a good job, who's a good husband, where do we buy a house, what neighborhood is accepted, how do we know what kind of car, you check all those boxes. Before you had an existential crisis, you're like, entrepreneur, right? So you buy the affiliate, and then you did the same thing kind of, right? We were just like, okay, what does it look like to be an affiliate owner? I'm going to love my people. I do that. What does that look like? L1, L2, L3, L4. Okay, got it. Well, there wasn't an L4 really back then, but you climbed those ladders. You did those things. You looked around like, what gym's doing it well? Okay, I'm going to do those things. And you do, and you keep adding, and you kept adding, and you kept adding, but you were also subtracting, which was you, right? And little by little, you chipped away at you to make an investment into that. And then before you had to sit uncomfortably in front of the mirror, you sat uncomfortably in front of a bottle of wine, several, right? I know you're buying the good stuff too if you're stopping at Walgreens. So at least you're making a budgetary conversation. You weren't stopping and buying like $100 bottles. You're like, I'm here for a quick dose and a cheap one.
Right. At least I admit it.
Can't even buy wine at Walgreens in New York. So I was like, I know. So
$20.
there's so much in there. And I know a lot of this stuff from you because you and I've had a lot of conversations. So, for anybody that's listening to it, you might be like, wow, that's a lot to infer or assume. But there is a lot more conversation between her and I than most of you guys would know about. But so your story is not unique, though. I guess is why I'm bringing this up. Right? Like so many people have come from that perspective of check the boxes. Who am I? Right. And right before they've had to have that uncomfortable conversation, they find themselves in an affiliate and they find this version of themselves. And mistakenly, what we end up seeing is kind of a sidebar as people start to explore who I am inside this notion of a CrossFitter. They come out the backside of the conversation I walked into before this podcast, which is like, I'm going to be an athlete, right? Because like, I'm going to re-sow my roots. I'm going to lace up my high school shoes. I'm going to go back into that thing. And long before the awareness sets in, you usually get crushed in your next qualifier or something like that. And you're like, okay, turns out that ship has sailed anyway. And so, but really what that is this same thing again, right? So like high school, college, etc. They lost themselves. Instead of finding themselves, they found CrossFit. Instead of finding out who they actually were, they look around and they look for standards. What does it mean to be a good CrossFitter? What's my benchmark times? What am I? Who am I? What should I be doing? What's Fraser doing? What's Froning doing? What's this? What's that? And they check those boxes, right? And then I got to be a competitive athlete all the time, doing the same thing that you didn't do, which was ask, who are you, right? And I don't share all this to pick on anybody to do it. I share it because the big risk is what you ran into. Right?
Yeah.
I don't ever want anybody to get to the point where you need to be so distracted that you willingly and knowingly engage in behavior that is not only not serving you, but it's killing you, right? Like, and I'm not vilifying alcohol or wine. I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But what I am vilifying is using something, anything, video games, food, wine, etc., to distract you from the conversation that is coming. And here's the thing that and I'm so proud of you for being here at this point and stepping in the role you stepped into with CrossFit. We'll come into that one in a second. And really like what that looks like, because for so many people, they don't want to do that work. Right. And so as an affiliate owner, rather than sitting back and starting with why and who am I and what I'm going to bring to this whole thing, they keep looking for more things to add on and layer on, really just making the complexity worse, subtracting from themselves even more, and not addressing the root cause. And so I'm glad that you were able to do it. And that's kind of a testament to the value that you have to your community, because maybe it wouldn't have mattered. Like maybe if there wasn't a community that you cared about being so important to and so valuable to, the distractions could have got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Well, and and I kind of think about this, and not to cut you off, but I look back at my coaching and me as a business owner during that phase, right? Like I thought I was showing up, but I wasn't showing up with my best self. And it wasn't until later on that I realized I would steer away from coaching. I would, I'm not comfortable doing these movements, even if you don't have to be able to do them, but I would just not be comfortable in who I am and what I was doing. And so I was actually during that time doing a disservice to my members by not putting myself out there, not putting myself first and focusing on myself and just letting everything take over. And so like, I really, like when I think about it, it hurts my feelings because I'm like, oh, like during those years, you know, like where can my community be today if I wouldn't have done that? But I'm like, I can't sit in that. I have to look at like where I'm going and you know what I'm doing today to do that for better my gym, my business, my community.
Yeah. I know that it does hurt your feelings because you've actually shed tears with me having that exact conversation before. And it's not unique, you know, not to say that your situation wasn't special. It's like, you know, one of the reasons Fit Affiliate does exist in general is that I know what it's like to sit at that desk and feel so completely alone. Not necessarily just because, you know, the business is doing well or not doing well, or people can't relate to you, but like to know that the actions that I have taken up until this point are not in alignment with the person that I want to be. And the reason that I've taken those actions was an intention, you know, looking for immediate distraction or immediate relief from, you know, whatever was happening. And then ultimately creating these long tail implications where it's like, how do you dig out of that hole? Right. And so for, you know, you to share it, hopefully other people listen to it and they're like, oh gosh, me too. Right. Like I'm so doing that. You know, maybe you haven't turned to alcohol yet, but maybe you are at the point where you are so turned inward at this point. You are so overwhelmed. You're so distracted. You are so out of traction that you are so inward that you're not sure what to do except for to distract yourself from that moment. And then if that's the case, we got to break the cycle right there, because the answer is not going to be, let's add more distraction on top of you. Like, let's give you more things to do. That might seem like the logical solution, but as my root conversation started, it's just replicating the pattern. You're just going to move it and essentially make it worse, right?
Yep.
And so I guess that kind of leads us into really the valuable part of this conversation, I guess, if we want to go there, which is where you're at currently now, right? And for you, you've spent some time in the last really handful of months last year really figuring out and relearning, both you and your husband, like, what do we want? Like, what does life look like? And no doubt about it, that's ultimately afforded you now that chance to have that conversation is afforded, because you're like, hey, the gym's doing okay. And I like it. And so you've moved into this new phase in life, which is really the phase. It would have been so much better if we could have started there. But, you know, the fact of the matter is you're here now. And I guess my question going back to that one, so you didn't know in the beginning, but what does the big picture look like now for you guys?
Yeah.
What does the future look like?
Yeah. So, not to sound like cliche, I definitely want to continue to build the gym, build the community. And so, seeing more coaches come in and level up, so that we continue to make our athletes better. So that's obviously that. So investing more from me and my husband more into the coaches so that they can invest into the community with that, and just continue to be a successful business. You know, I've been able to grow an amazing team that supports me. So I wasn't at the gym the most of last week, and then traveling to semifinals, and I went back yesterday and it wasn't burned down. The paper towels were stocked. So the equipment was back where all it needed to be. I just moved one thing from that. But I think that's, you know, for me, I need to really sit down, because I've kind of gotten to where I thought I was going to get, you know, and so now I just need to sit down and see what that next step truly looks like within my business. Whether it be to move into hire a general manager to run things, like, is that my next step for my business? So, yeah.
Do you think that the question is, what is the next step for your business, or what is the next step for Jenn?
It could be both, right?
They're different.
I feel like they're different, right? So, next step for me personally is just to continue to make sure that I am priority. And so I think that's the next step every single day that I wake up with, that I'm priority, that I get my workout in today. I get my movement in today. Like, even if I can't make it to the gym, that I can at least get my ruck and go for a ruck outside.
Shout out, Go
And
Ruck.
right, shout out, definitely Go Ruck. The best shoes and apparel and rucks. Right.
She's selling it now, guys.
Oh yeah. But that I continue to make myself a priority. So that is definitely my next step every single day. It's not easy to go from me being a people pleaser and just wanting to serve everyone. I am 100% more than likely ready to put myself on the back burner for anybody at any time. And so for me, that's a constant next step. It's just Jenn's first today, like meal prep, Jenn's first, working out, Jenn's first, type things. Unless my, dogs need to go to the bathroom right then. I'm still like, can I go first? But I think reevaluating what my position in the gym looks like. I love to coach. I coach a couple classes a week. And I think that's good for me. I still get to see my people. I'm not like over inundated with, stress of it. I can coach. I can come in, work out, then coach, work out, coach, whichever works. And then I can go home. And I don't have to worry about coaching 4 classes in a row.
Yeah.
So that's it.
The place I really want to go to, but I don't think it will be that valuable for the audience, is I really want to get into Jenn, the caregiver, Jenn, the people pleaser, Jenn, the person who wants to take care of people, because in there is probably the answer to set you free for the future. But I think for everybody listening to this, it'd be like, this doesn't apply to me. So let's talk about the thing that does apply to you, which is the question that does apply to the audience, not necessarily just you, which is, what's next for the business, what's next for Jenn, and are they the same? And the answer is they are the same if one precedes the other. But if vice versa, the other one precedes, they're completely the opposite. Meaning, if what's next for Jenn precedes what's next for the business, they're one and the same. But if what's next for the business precedes what's next for Jenn, which it almost always does for everybody else, they're completely mutually exclusive. And you see this a lot, almost even in the answer you just gave, if you guys are listening to it, in terms of asking you what you wanted next. You told me how the business was going to run coaches and this and that. And those things are great because if those things happen, arguably your life would probably be much better. But most likely what would end up happening is you'd find more ways to be busy. Yeah. Right. And so the reason why these two things matter is that one is intention, the other one is distraction. One is reaction, rather, not distraction. And in business, anybody listening to this, if you own a business, there's always something to react to. And if there's not, the IRS will call, and then you definitely have something. Lisa, I don't know what they call them over there, but
same.
Yeah. They'll call, and your attorney will call, or a landlord will call, and you'll be like, I just did everything by the book in the affiliate playbook. Nobody told me that my attorney was going to call, or my landlord was going to call and be like, hey, so you're out next month. Right? Surprise, welcome to business. Anyways, my point is that there will always be something. But if we start instead with intention, just like in fitness, right? Like if we started with the neurological aspects of fitness and then moved into organic adaptation, organic fitness, you're obviously going to be much fitter overall than you are if you just start just doing exercise, right? Because you can stay really, really busy in the gym. We know plenty of people who spend hours in the gym, but they're not fit, right? And if we don't instead start with what's your intention, which is who you are in the conversation, then those two do become mutually exclusive. And I know you're toying around with this idea, so you're not necessarily on the hot seat, but I do think it's worth mentioning for everybody that's listening to this, being like, oh, because it would make the most sense, put my professional needs, the business needs first, because if I could just solve that problem, I'll come next. But we just talked about what happens when you do come next. You're still coming next. You're still coming next. And then eventually you don't come next, right? You just keep whittling away at yourself, chipping away and subtracting. And so that's like the big risk. So we got to figure out really what that looks like for you. And where this becomes the issue for you personally in this conversation is that if we don't address the little girl who wants to make everybody happy and take care of everybody and why that person came to exist, she's not going to be able to answer the next question that I'm going to ask you, which is, let's strip the what's and the hows away from it. And let's get into the whys and the bigger pictures, which is give me some big goals. What does the house look like? What does the money look like? What does the dreams look like? What does the future look like? What does the castle in the sky look like? And I can already see the little girl be like, she's like, we don't ask that because my parents are going to do those things for me. Right. And that's a whole different conversation, but we do need to know that. So you're kind of you're on the hot seat now. I want you to tell me and the audience one of your big, hairy, audacious personal goals that you're afraid of because you don't want to be vulnerable and be like, does it make me a bad person if I say I want $3 million in my bank account?
Oh my gosh. This is what's going to make me look like a bad person is that I don't have like, what are my goals? Right? What are my personal goals? Right.
Doesn't make you look like a bad person. That's why I'm asking you, because it makes you look like the right person. Like
everybody. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to pay my house off. All of my other debt is good. So I would love to pay off my house. You know,
but if your house is paid off, what would it do for you?
I would have more money to travel.
Oh. So where though?
I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Australia and say hey to Lisa. I'll go to right. I'm gonna go.
If you're listening to this, you better get her across the pond ASAP. She needs to go to Europe.
Right. I'm gonna go see Daniel.
Don't go to visit Lisa. Don't go to the prison island. You would get stuck there.
Hey, we would have a great time down here.
Yeah.
Cultures aside, locations aside. So if you did go to experience those places and you got to, be those places and put your feet in those sands or sit in those cafes, what does that feel like for Jenn as the girl? What is that doing for you? Because it's easy to go to those places and think that they're beautiful, but it will make you feel like something. What is that doing for you?
Yeah. I think like a peace, right? Mm-hmm. And that I would feel peaceful. And I don't want to say like I've made it, because I don't think I'm ever gonna make it in that sense. Like I'm always gonna want to strive for something. I'm not gonna settle. I want to strive for something. But I think getting there and just being in the moment, and like when I die, I want my memory bank to be exploding. Yeah,
for sure. You stepped right into the trap. So welcome. I'm glad you're here now. Because you can interchange travel the world with insert whatever thing. Travel is always a big one, because I think as children we watch society, we watch parents, we watch grandparents, grow up, work, get to 45, 55, 65, retirement age, and they go travel. And so subconsciously, I think we all bake that in as like, that's where I'm headed. And I'll know that I've made it when I've got there to some degree. But there's lots of other things. Some people it's sports cars. Some people it's big houses. Some people it's country club memberships. You can insert whatever thing it is. And it's not because everybody should travel because it will literally change everything about who you are. It's not easy, but it's not nearly as hard as you think it is. And we can talk about that whole limiting belief. Maybe at least earmark that one for a future podcast. But inside, whatever it is, travel, Ferrari, big house,
100 dogs.
Yeah, right. There's validation to some degree. I will receive acknowledgement from whatever sources I expect to receive acknowledgement from. Maybe that's myself, maybe that's from society, maybe that's from my parents, maybe that's from all the above, when I'm able to do X, Y, or Z, right? And it's easy to say, no, I just want to see Paris. Absolutely. You should see Paris. Like, food's great. People are a little weird. Sorry, Chaffee. But, and you should definitely go there. But you should also go to like Croatia, and you should also go to Prague. You should also go to all these great places. But why'd you choose Paris? Right? They're like, what? Why'd you choose Paris? Well, because I always wanted to go to Paris. But why? Probably because as a kid, you grew up watching all these romantic stories and movies about people going to Paris and living this life and doing these things. Paris, just like New York City for so many people, gets turned into this thing. And it's not about not wanting or desiring those things. It's about, we need to know what you're going to experience when you get there, because the chances are you're already there, right? You might not be in Paris yet, but the validation that you're seeking, or the acknowledgement, or the peace that comes from like, I've been able to do this thing is always, you will find already inside you, because you're going to be the one that has to do that. But if we keep making success or accomplishment or the future about chasing, don't be surprised when you never arrive. Right.
Yep.
And what needs to happen is we got to unpack that idea of the future for that girl and what that looks like, because dude, it's so easy to build the business around that. But if we don't do that, we build this business and then that girl has to try to figure out how to put herself into it. And she never feels comfortable. There's always the next thing to do. It never quite feels like home. It's really easy to be proud of it and to be passionate about it. But like something about your psyche has always been like, I still got to get to Paris though. Right. Or I still got to get to the Ferrari. I still got to get the bigger house. And we need to know what those things are, because so many of us make the same mistake. And this mistake is essentially the thing that candidly will cost you and every other affiliate owner their affiliate. And I don't say that lightly, because there's nothing hard about owning an affiliate. Sorry, there's just not. It's a very boring business if you let it be. But if you don't want to pay attention to you and the narrative, there's so many ways you can make it exciting. And by exciting, I mean stressful, right? And you'll make it stressful and you'll get very little exchange for that in return. So you won't make the money that you want. And then the girl doesn't get the trip to Paris, and the boy doesn't get the Ferrari, and the guy doesn't get, the country club membership. And then and then at the end of the day, you got to face your family at Thanksgiving, be like, oh, still doing that CrossFit thing? Yeah, Ted, I am. Thanks for asking. Right. And inside you're like, the little boy's like, failure. I'm a failure. Everybody, I should have been a doctor. Right. and we'll all keep chasing. And if we don't address it, like, dude, you already have the greatest job on the planet. You did the hardest thing that 1% of the world does, which is build a business, and a really fucking good one. Right. And on top of that, did that while literally caring about people, while most other people in business do it being like, how do I extract every dollar? Right. Yep. What can I find? How can I sell this dongle for $1 to 1 million people so that I can just go retire into the woods? There's no value in selling dongles to people on Amazon. No offense to all you Amazon store people, but you did the right thing for the right reasons, for the right people, all the right times. And so we need to figure out what she looks like, what she wants, what she needs, because you're going to find, as most of you do listening to this, when we dig through this, she's already there. Right. And you know that part of it because you did heal old wounds. You did get to turn inward and outward. You had a friend reach out. You were able to take that call. You were able to rise up that thing. And now you've been able to pour that journey into so many other affiliate owners, which is why I've said it since the beginning. You're the perfect person for that position. And I'm so glad that you're there. But I still want to make sure that we get you to the next place so you get to your arrival, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense. But just to be completely honest, it is really hard to like think about, right? Like, I know my why and I know this, but like you said, that deep down of how you would feel when you get there, or why you really want to get there, other than just driving fast in a Ferrari, which I think I just would want to drive that. I don't know that I want to own one, but
you can actually just go to a track experience. It's like $150 an hour. You can do it tomorrow.
Yeah. I know. I would rather drive a rally car on a rally track because super.
That one you can go to dirt fish and do, but it's a little more expensive. But definitely 10-10 recommend going there.
Awesome. So, but I think it. As an affiliate owner, we do say so much in that lane, and even just in like my day to day of like, how can I support my team? How can I support, my affiliate? How can I do this? How can I serve you guys? How can I do this? And not saying that serving's that, but it's super easy for me to like forget about my goals and even what they are and why they are versus just, like what you said.
At its core, most of us landed on this beach, this Normandy, so to speak, for mostly the same reason. We all, for various different identical childhoods, we all likely grew up in an environment that was probably not exactly how we wanted it to be to one degree or another. And so we took action. We took intention, and we were able to try to create some degree of normalcy in that environment, in hoping that like it would change the situation for us. And really what that taught us, and I'm paraphrasing all of this, is that we all grew up to become fixers. And all of us have this same sort of, and not everybody, because there's some people in this space that are just really narcissistic and otherwise, but like the vast majority of people I find in the CrossFit space particularly come from this same, well, you use the word trauma, right? Not saying that like our childhood was bad, just like even the most well-intentioned parent only enforces conditions on us, right? And expectations and standards. And so sometimes those things are outside of our ability. And so we have to find ways to control the environment. And so we all end up becoming these fixers. And the reason why it's so important to go back to that thing is not that we got to explore, because it's not therapy, right? But we have to understand, okay, that is actually how I ended up here. That makes the most sense, because that unhealed conversation leads to a problem when it's time for Jenn to say $3 million on recording to people, because little Jenn was like, I can't say that. That makes me feel weird and bad, and somebody's going to think I'm greedy, and I'm insert whatever it is, right? Like we have these things about it, and that comes from this thing where we think that if we just fix everyone or everything or every situation or every environment, I'll take care of me, because that's what the little kid learned, right? And so we have to unpack that, and that probably just lost anybody that was paying attention still. But if we don't know what it's going to feel like when you sit down in that cafe, and that relief that's going to supposedly come when you do get to that beach, or you do get the keys to that car, don't be surprised when you sit in that cafe and love the croissant and love the cobblestone streets and love everything about it, and you're happy in that moment, but you can't wait to get back to work to keep distracting yourself. Because when you sit in that chair and everything that you thought was going to happen didn't happen, and those feelings didn't come, what does start to come is your psyche's like, well, now that I've got your attention, let's talk about existential angst. And you're like, nope, another shot of espresso, please. And then you're like, let me get back to work. Actually, where's my laptop? I got some emails to send, right? Let me check my Instagram, my social media. Let me do whatever, insert. And so I don't say there's anything wrong with those things, but this is the reason why, Fit Affiliate is the way that it is that it's easy for us to layer on complexity. It's easy to say, hey, do this, right? Or do this thing. Have you tried doing this? What about if you did it this way? What about that? And not that there's not that they won't work, because they will work potentially, but there's a reason why we all arrive there. And that big risk is that we'll arrive there and we still won't be happy. And then what you take a good hard look at is, I think this affiliate is one of two things. It either is the way or it's in the way. And my fear is that most of us, just like I once did, look at it as in the way.
Yep.
But it really needed to be just the way. It's part of the story. It's not the whole story. But if we keep trying to make it this thing that we're going to get validation from and credit from and this, and applause from, you're going to have a hard time, because no matter how much the applause comes, you're not going to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a lot. Sorry, guys. Sorry to everybody listening, because they're like, wait a minute. I thought we were going to figure out what's the new email sequence.
But I think, what you said, Tony, is right. And listening to Jenn's story, clearly I'm having flashbacks to my own early coaching calls with you, because I
almost called you out on it. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. But
kettle.
Yeah, when you get to that point and you're sitting there and it's quiet and you're like, I don't want to have to ask myself these questions, like, what do I really want? Because it's really hard, to give yourself permission, but it's very uncomfortable. So you do go look for the next thing to, hey, I'm going to go do a post about how great my gym is and stuff. And it's like, that'll make me feel good. And no one has to see what a struggling bag of disaster that I am, like, walking around, internally. So, and no one wants to sit in that space with themselves. So that's why we fill it with, activities and noise.
It's the most dangerous and the most challenging for those of us who can pour ourselves into altruism. For those of us who have the both blessing and curse of having a way to infinitely pour ourselves into helping others, Fit Philly wasn't built as an accident. Like it was just my trauma just showing back up again, right? You know, if we, those of us who have this infinite ability to this outlet, it's the hardest, right? Because it's so easy. Like if we don't have, for many people, if you're an engineer, no offense to any engineers, like we can do more math, right? Like you can take on another project or work longer hours or try to redo the formula or whatever you want it to be. But at some point you're just like, enough is enough. But it never, ever feels like enough is enough when there's always someone else to help. And when you see the world for all the potential in everybody, you can infinitely lose yourself in your impetuous pursuit of everybody's potential, and instead of looking at your own. And like that's always the hardest part with everybody in this space, is that so many affiliate owners want to, and just coaches too, right? It's not affiliate, and the creatives in the space too. We're all here because we're like, if we could just extract potential from other people, somehow that's going to show my potential and the world is going to applaud me. But it's got to go the opposite. We have to start with your potential first and extract that from you, so then you can then pull it from other people, not distract it.
No, I think that's good. But I think too, like where it's easy to get like stuck in that, right? Is I keep, I'm like, Jen is priority, Jen's this and this. Yeah. But my reason for being priority is like to help someone else, like to serve my community, to serve my people, to set that example for them. And so like, why is Jen priority for Jen? Mm-hmm. Right? And what does Jen want?
And how does Jen know when she's got it? Yeah. Right, like that's the big one. And you'll find for all people, especially, we're really, really good at leaving that answer out. And we do that subconsciously because it lets us stay in pursuit. Right? Yep. It lets us keep going after something. Because if we said it, like if we say, I'll know I've got it when it's 100, when you hit 100, you're done. Then you're forced to confront like, okay, all things I thought were going to happen didn't happen. So if I just don't say 100, I just say, I'd like more, right? We just keep doing more. And we're like, must not be it yet. Like, no, that's not it. Then that's why fitness was so much easier with CrossFit, because they were like, here's the expectation. Here's the goal. Here's the standard. Hit those standards. And then when you're there, identifiably, observably, you're pretty fucking fit. If there was those same analogs in life and business, that'd be great. But
I think like the pursuit of like virtuosity, right, is great in CrossFit, but like in the business space, it's always like if we don't set that, we're never going to get there. We're always constantly pursuing something. Like,
well, the same conversation I think exists in the fitness space too, until you run into CrossFit, right? Because everybody in the gym thinks that they're moving, like they all think they have good form. They all think that they're doing things virtuously. They think that they're fit. They think they're healthy. And by the standards that they have given themselves, right? Like they've made their own rules of the game. They're like, I'm winning. I'm like, at a game of one, like you're not actually winning. But no person in the gym inherently thinks that like, wow, I'm literally just wasting my time here, right? But through CrossFit, we were able to essentially define fitness, and effectively highlight and quantify it. And so people start to realize like, oh, if this is improving my fitness based on these metrics and these standards, then to keep it up. If not, don't do it. Life and business is the same way. And those metrics are just essentially standards of freedom. But just like in fitness, if we don't address the you in the story in the class, don't be surprised when the you brings weird things to the class, right? Like, but insert XYZ. And so I think what is great about you, I guess, is to bring this full circle, is that you have lived like a whole life in like a handful of years for one. And because of that story, you're motivated to go further, help more people. And I think that maybe it might have came off in here as that like helping people is bad, because that's not the case at all. It's just that it's a big risk, because you can really, really, really lose yourself. And you may even actually be trying to lose yourself when helping other people. But if you first know yourself, you can help way more people. And I think in your story, what you did, luckily, is you ran face first into a really good friend, first and foremost, and into a really uncomfortable conversation with yourself. And you learned yourself. And you said, I need to take this story That's why you're like, can I come on the podcast? And I need to go help other people because they're already in there, right? Like the answer is not outside of you. Like Jenn's answer was always right inside her, but somebody just had to say, hey, how are you?
Yep.
Right? Because that is one of the most heavy, powerful questions anybody will ever ask you is sometimes, and it will floor you like a freight train when someone's like, how are you? And you're like, oh, can't complain. I'm like, no. How are you?
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
oh, you mean like really? Yeah, I mean like really, like uncomfortable. Leaving now, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so when somebody does truly care about you and asks, and they're looking through you, it's a blessing, truly. And so I'm glad that you had that opportunity for you, but I'm also glad that you were motivated by that opportunity. And what I'm also happy about is that you are still in the journey of working through it. It's just like, it'd be one thing if you showed up here like, I've got it all figured out now. I'm like, uh-oh, she's not the right person for the job, because you're still in the same journey as everybody you're helping. And that is so powerful. I think so many people think that the coaching space, the training space, the help space in general, and also just so we're clear, when I say all of us ended up here, that includes all the help spaces. Like some of us ended up as coaches, some of us ended up as nurses, some of us ended up as doctors, some of us we all ended up growing up being like, I think the answer to me is to help others. But we'll come back to that. But my point is that we have to get to that point. We have to get there so you guys and you can understand it. But for you to be in that journey, I think is enlightening to so many people, because they do think, oh, until I have done X, can I help somebody with that, right? And that's not the case. Like the beauty of this space is that we're all in a journey together. And that's why I think you're the perfect person, because you don't operate from a podium of, excellence or some position where you're like, I'm better than you because I've been through that moment. You're like, I'm in it with you. Let's go together. Here's my hand. And so I'm proud of you for that one. I always want you on the podcast because I think you're the most fun. Didn't make you cry, so that's a good thing. But I do think you also need to be a little bit more critical and ask yourself what that girl wants when she gets to Europe.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think so. It's fun, and like you said, I'm still like in that journey, right? Like every single day, but experiencing some of the things that other people experience, and then just having those conversations with affiliate owners of like you said, what's your why? Like, are you okay? And I think people asking those questions and being able to speak to you from a point of love rather than just like judgment is huge. So,
and it's something that's rare that happens as well. Like until you've been through it and had someone sit across from you and genuinely ask that and hold space for the answer. Like once you've had that happen and you've had those conversations, then you start to want to seek out more, and because you realize how powerful that was and how rare it actually is, rather than how are you? It's like, oh, fine. Yep. Cool. Good. And we all move on with our lives. And you just talk about, how about them Broncos or, whatever it is. But it's, through my coaching relationship, with Tony, which has been a considerable period of time and has aged us both immensely, probably Tony more than me.
My beard is. That's all stuff.
But it's, having those conversations where I didn't have those. And all of a sudden someone's actually asking me and waiting for the answer and then going, no, that's not the answer. Like, tell me how you really are. And then you start to realize the power in that, and you actually then start asking yourself those questions more often, which is, you had a friend do it, but whether it's a coach, whatever, having somebody sit externally to you and be able to see you. And once that, even though it's uncomfortable at the time, then you're like, I need to do this again. Yeah. And then you can then take that forward as well.
For sure. I'm just glad that there's you on the other side of an email and a phone for so many affiliate owners. And I think there's a lot of comfort in it, because for all the reasons we know to be true, and all the field leaders, I think worldwide fit into this exact same mold. And the main reason is that you're an authentic human who is partnered in the journey. You're not a paid actor who's sitting on the other side of the screen, reading from a checklist from a call center, right? Like, I think that one of the most magical things has been the creation of this entire department for that reason, because it is a lonely thing to own any business, especially an affiliate, and having you guys on the other end of the phone to not talk down to me or tell me what I'm supposed to know is cool, and just care about me. And so for that reason, keep doing what you do. And we'll keep exploring who you are so that when they pick up the phone, you can help them explore who they are.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. I think this was a super powerful episode. Thanks for your honesty, Jen. Like, it's
Thank you.
and it's true. Like, sitting watching you in the hot seat, I was like, "Whoa, we could be twins." But I remember being on the end of those questions and realizing how difficult it was. But when you have the answers and they become clearer, it's a powerful shift indeed. So, you know, I know that this episode is going to help a lot of other people have that conversation with themselves, but also help you have more conversations as well, and better conversations. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thank you.